The Biden administration is turning its attention to corporate price fixing as part of a broader effort to help American families struggling with the high cost of living. Now, inflation can be caused by lots of different factors, including supply chain disruptions, high demand, and labor shortages. But with food, it's usually much easier to tell when it's caused by price fixing. That's because while inflation has slowed, grocery prices have remained elevated, leading many to speculate that grocery retailers are using inflation as an excuse to raise prices beyond what's justified. As part of the government's efforts to curb this practice, the Federal Trade Commission recently sued to block the proposed merger between two of the nation's largest grocery chains, Kroger and Albertsons. The FTC says that the proposed merger would stifle competition, allowing this new mega chain to continue manipulating and raising prices. At a recent trial, a senior Kroger executive actually admitted that the chain raised prices on staple items like milk and eggs beyond what inflation justified, a practice that is typically known as price gouging. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris has pledged to tackle corporate price gouging within her first 100 days in office, including enacting a federal ban on the practice to be enforced with financial penalties. With more on this, I am joined by Rohit Chopra, the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Rohit, welcome. I have some questions. There is a distinction between price fixing on the one hand and price gouging on the other, but it's been a long time since I took Econ 201. So can you fill me in? What's the difference?
When you walk down the aisle of the grocery store, it may look like there's 100 different cereals or 50 different types of soaps, but in many cases, they're really just owned by 2 or 3 companies.
Right.
And actually, when it comes to the supermarkets, they might have all sorts of names all over the country, but there's really just a handful of big supermarkets that run it all. So often when we talk about price fixing, it's about companies coordinating, colluding to push up their prices rather than innovating. And we have seen this all over the economy, including when it comes to renting apartments.
Yeah.
A company, RealPage, was sued for fixing rents between landlords. So that's the kind of collusion that can often be criminal. Price gouging is often when you're just jacking up the price to exploit a particular situation, like a disaster, a pandemic, or some type of disruption in the economy. The bottom line, it is a way to pump up profits without doing anything to serve your customers better.
And Democratic nominee Kamala Harris has really taken aim at price gouging as an assault on America's middle class. She's proposed a federal ban on price gouging that would come with financial penalties. And this is in addition to the 37 states that already have similar prohibitions on price gouging within their jurisdictions. How would this federal ban work in practice, and how would it interact with those state bans and those 37 jurisdictions?
Well, we do have a number of state bans, and we've seen how individual states of all different types have gone to enforce it during the pandemic. A lot of companies said, well, we have a supply chain shortage. We've got to jack up the price. But then when the supply chain shortage goes away, like diapers or so many things, those prices stay high. So there are lots of efforts to strike at prices, especially when it comes to companies who are sidestepping the law. And a national law, we have some on the books today that we need to enforce, and we may need new laws, too, to make sure that companies are competing and not cheating.
So this is really about sort of shoring up the system and plugging any gaps that exist, because some states don't have these bans on the books already.
Yeah, well, we also need to look at the individuals who are calling the shots when it comes to price fixing.
Yeah.
The CFPB is very focused on repeat offenders and individual executives that are directing some of this misconduct. If they are the ones colluding at a conference or a dinner to push up prices or designing algorithms to allow them to price fix, we think they need to be on the hook, too, individually.
And the CFPB has been part of the Biden administration's efforts to address this kind of corporate fixing, corporate price fixing, all of this behavior in tandem with the FTC. Is this different from other administrations and how they have approached the CFPB's mission?
Yeah, well, I really see our work has really focused on the creep of junk fees throughout the economy. And we see that the same fees are popping up, the banks charging the same weird fee the airlines charging family seating fees.
I've seen that one.
And now the CFPB recently uncovered school lunch junk fees where parents have to pay to load up the payment card to be used for their kids' school lunch. Over and over again, we're seeing how companies are, especially when there's just one or two of them, able to push up fees and prices. It adds up to billions of dollars. The CFPB has done work to wipe away tens of billions of it, and we are part of an all-of-government effort to do it. Just this week, we teamed up again with the Department of Transportation to go after some of the sketchy practices on rewards credit cards that are charging big fees and often suddenly devaluing people's points.
Wow. The CFPB is an institution, an agency that is relatively recent in origin. It was only founded in 2010 after the Great Recession. But even though it's relatively young, it has been the target of conservative ire for its entire existence. Why does the right hate the CFPB so much? And can you say more about all of the efforts to dismantle your agency and its funding structure?
Well, here's what's funny. I don't see this as left-right. The only place that CFPB is unpopular is with lobbyists and their lawyers in Washington.
The Fifth Circuit, too.
Well, you know, I take it in some ways that when we are challenging abusive, illegal practices that take billions of dollars from people's pockets or rig the market to make people worse off, I do think sometimes we are going to get some real pushback, and we have not been afraid. And we have still been able to rack up some big victories for families across the country, and I expect that that pushback is going to continue.
What do you think happens for the CFPB if Project 2025 becomes the law of the land and a second Trump administration comes into power?
Well, I don't want to comment on elections, but I'd say this. There has been a long-standing effort to defund and destroy the CFPB, and I think it's because it takes on some of Wall Street's abuses and the financial industry's abuses that for too long just went so unchecked. And that's why we're focused on the credit card companies, making sure people can refinance their mortgages better, make sure they're not cheated on their auto loans, and that they can keep the money they earned. And I think that's really what this is all about.
Right. Fighting for the little guy. Rohit Chopra, thank you so much. This has been terrific.